so now if there was a dark horse candidate where I can remove my bias from the Renato Moicano fight, this is probably a great bet for fight of the night. Raoni Barcelos and Timur Valiev. Now, this is such an interesting fight to break down because Raoni Barcelos is probably one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC, period. His record shows it, 5-0. I mean, what the hell? And people barely talk about him. He's got a win over Said Nurmagomedov. Like, the guy really has done it all already, and he's just starting to get into that big name territory. The thing with Valiev that we saw is, I really, as much as I enjoyed his previous win where he really took a liking to his wrestling and said, you know what, F this, down to the ground, I'm going to grind this out, get my W. Trevin Jones, man. That Trevin Jones fight is such a heartbreaker because I believe Trevin Jones earned that victory fair and square despite the weed. But, I mean, Timur Valiev got caught fair and square with his hands down trying to chase, and then Trevin just came back with a beautiful shot there that put him completely out. And that's a lesson to learn, right? That's the part that makes me really wonder if Valiev has that discipline to stay standing with some of the better fighters in UFC. The thing about Barcelos' 5-0 record is the guy hasn't even lost since 2014. We already talked about the Said Nurmagomedov win. I mean, the guy's got 3 canceled fights since the Taha win, and it's Merab Dvalishvili, Asuncao, and Marcelo Royo. So these are the guys that he's, on the verge of facing. Gets a guy like Timur Valiev, who, in my opinion, if he just implements a very similar game plan that he did against Martin Day, he's a very good chance of winning this fight. And I think a lot of people are going to start to notice Barcelos and maybe ride with him for this fight because of how creative he is. He's got the ground game. The striking is beautiful. Great knees. Gas tank for days. I mean, he's able to work into the ground fairly easily. Great 1-2 combo. It's just he does everything right. Calf kicks galore. And that's the weird thing, right? You talk about both guys' path to victories. I mean, calf kicks and just distance striking with big knees and punches gets this fight in Barcelos' corner, no problem in my opinion. But then you talk about what we've seen from Timur Valiev, He's working with guys like Corey Anderson and Frankie Edgar and all the big names out on the East Coast. He's got really good pedigree when it comes to wrestling, grappling, judo style. But you have to do it against a guy like Raoni Barcelos, who's very, just so lanky and moves so well. It's just the speed, I think, is going to be such a problem for a guy like Valiev, who tends to move more of like that stationary, big-time puncher. And, funny enough, both guys love to throw those kicks. And I think whoever can injure that lower half of the body first is going to have a lot of success later in the fight. It's going to be tough to finish this fight early. That's for sure. And, when you talk about Valiev being that counter-striking type who had that good game plan against Martin Day, it's like, just use the feints, man. Get him close to you. Start to land those big leg kicks. Start to get this fight to the ground, because I think top position, even with how good Raoni might be from his back, is probably one of the better areas for Timur to take this fight. These guys are even across the board. No reach advantage. Barcelos is listed 1 inch taller. The thing that I like about Valiev is the striking defense, right? The guy's got 71% striking accuracy, but still only absorbs about 56% of his opponent's strikes, with a striking differential of 5.5 to 1.5 strikes per minute. So there's really good things to talk about Timur Valiev in the stand-up game, despite the volume coming from Barcelos. Very deadly striker. But then let's go into what we love to talk about, the grappling, right? 85% takedown defense for Barcelos. I think that's going to play huge for him here. And both guys average over 2 takedowns a fight. So it's just when you talk about mixed martial arts, this is a fight where we could see 2 guys who very much excel in so many different facets of the game actually go to town, both on the feet, on the ground. Those are definitely the best fights in MMA. I want to see 5 minutes of scrambling and rolling mixed in with a bunch of punches and kicks and things like that. That's the most technical and just highly skilled aspect of the MMA and the UFC version of MMA that I love to see, man. These guys end up so good that it's a stalemate. So that's when you see 2 black belts in BJJ just start banging it out for 3 rounds because they can't knock each other out. So that's what I love about this fight, man. It's just 2 really, really good athletes. No advantage from a size perspective, and it's like a best man win type of thing. So in terms of an edge, I just give Raoni the edge because of what we've seen from him. I think he can move really well. I think that those kicks are much longer. I think that he fights longer versus Valiev's in close style, throwing those big punches to set up those leg kicks, things like that. And we also saw him be fairly indisciplined against a guy like Trevin Jones, which to me is a red flag regardless of anything else. And again, against Martin Day, he was able to take him to the ground the whole time, which now kind of spells for, is he able to take Raoni the same way to the ground as much as he wants? Because I think it's going to be a bit tougher than that. That's the big thing for me. And with Martin Day, he only had 8 significant strikes in that fight. That's what made it look so dominant for Valiev, is he pretty much executed his game plan to perfection, which now tells you, is it going to be that easy against the guy like Raoni Barcelos? Because I personally do not think so. So let's take a look at the lines. I think that this one, because of the areas you see them in, pick 'em area, but I think Raoni deserves the edge based on being 5-0, hasn't lost since 2014, and taking out some big names in the UFC. So let's take a look. Without question, Raoni Barcelos, -230 opener, now coming down to a -220, -225. Timur Valiev, a +180, moving up to about a +190 in some places. So very much goes along with what we were saying about both guys. I think that the striking game of Raoni early on can pretty much dictate where this fight goes moving forward, because if Timur Valiev is hurt in any way or is just dealing with too much volume, it could be a tough fight for him to recover in. Whereas on the flip side, if Barcelos is having a tough time getting up from any takedown that Valiev can land, I think that's his fight to win. So very close, despite what Vegas wants you to believe. I think that Barcelos deserves the edge, but at the same time, to count out Valiev that much is a bit of a concern to me. But all in all, definitely, like I said, dark horse candidate for fight of the night, if not the unbiased selection for fight of the night. So